Good morning, Albania. Well, it is morning your time. I'm recording this. It's almost midnight here in Florida in the United States. And I wanted to make this video. This is the first time I'm connecting with you via video, via YouTube, but I have been with you. You have been publishing, you have been publicizing my investigative report on Jared Kushner, Epstein's network, Sazan Island, and we refer to it as Jared Kushner's Satan Island for the first time starting last December 2025. So I have had many people subscribing to my email list on my Patreon site. And I also want to take the time and thank these great journalists in Albania, independent, fearless journalists who fearlessly published all my series, every single article, every single podcast, every single expose. So, Pamfleti, if you're here, any of your journalists, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being fearless, okay? In fact, I had another article this morning on June 3rd, Wednesday, that was published, I believe, on Tirana Express. I also want to thank you and the journalists for your gracious crediting of my investigative work. At the time, honestly, I thought it was not going to get anywhere. It was not going to go anywhere because I kept exposing and everything was silenced here in this country, in the United States. And people here in the United States, despite the fact that this investigative reports contain some of the most explosive facts on Epstein and Epstein's network, absolutely crickets, silence. Um, the only two countries outside the United States, because here this is completely censored, we do not have fearless journalists like you guys do, unfortunately. Uh, the only countries that published my investigative reports and they didn't give up, relentlessly publicized it. One was Albania. Pamfleti, again, thank you. Also, I have to say, I must thank Serbia because Serbian journalists also covered it. All the vloggers and bloggers, they made sure that these expose articles, investigative reports were publicized. I want to thank you again here, even though this is for Albania. I really want to thank them. In fact, RT Serbia published a three-part investigative series with interviews with me, and again they were daring. And other than that, basically nothing, because my investigative reports starting in November 2025 and going for 3 months until mid-February 2026, based on insiders in the FBI, and these are high-level FBI agents, many of them here in Washington, D.C., still with the FBI, contacting some of the whistleblowers related to the United Nations, and this one goes back all the way to 1990s with the Balkan Wars and the case of DynCorp. Of course, the great whistleblower, Catherine Balkovac, and people who were connected with her case. So I started working on this because it first started the case as investigating Jared Kushner and his UAE and Israeli partners investing and buying and bidding for Sazan Island in Albania. And this would be around July, August 2025. Well, as I started collecting information, researching, developing contacts on Jared Kushner and why Sazan Island, and again, July, August 2025, The more I started digging, the bigger the hole, the deeper the hole got. Because as I started getting information on that aspect of Jared Kushner and Sazan Island, I ended up with Epstein's network, and one of Jeffrey Epstein's main partners. And this is the main partner from the UAE. His name is Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem. And you can go and see that I was the first person exposing all this and the island's connection with Jeffrey Epstein, besides Jared Kushner and Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, before anybody even had or even mentioned the name Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem. Anyhow, and with that, I brought to you, and you published, your journalists, your brave journalists kept publishing it. Okay? So then, after gathering all this information, I started publishing the reports, some of them via audio podcast, some of them with articles on my Patreon website around late November, early December 2025. And I kept going till February. As I said, completely censored here in the United States, and other than Serbia and Albania, basically all other countries censored it. Now, this is extremely important. We are talking about a censorship that is not only about some elections or political figures, because this is a fact that is still not being published in the United States, the country where Jeffrey Epstein's network's headquarters, one of its main headquarters were, and the country that at the surface has been putting all the stuff with its Congress, which is corrupt, a lot of pedophiles there. Trust me, if you look me up, and those of you who search my name, you can see that I have the moral authority to talk about the United States Congress, because since 2002, I have been exposing this corrupt institution. But the fact that with all these BS, a lot of things they are putting out there, some of the talking heads here, social media, popular Americans are talking about Epstein, just get rid of them. They have been creating this absolutely false and misdirecting, because intentionally they want to misdirect what really Jeffrey Epstein's case was and still is, because the network is Epstein's network still is alive. Okay? Number one, and this is a confirmed fact, 80+% of Jeffrey Epstein's network's victims, starting from mid-1990s, 80%, 80%, are and were from the Balkans, Albania, Eastern Europe, and the country Turkey. 80+%. Take a look at what they are publicizing, okay? The so-called independent journalists, the media here, they keep talking about 4 or 5 American victims, and they are talking about things that are not even the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Epstein's network. 2-3 segments that I published on Jeffrey Epstein's had to do with the United Nations and the network's deep penetration into the United Nations. And I named names and I provided documents. If you go to my site, patreon.com, Sibel Edmonds, you will see all those articles, but you'll also search and find RT Serbia's 3-part series, okay? These are the confirmed facts. 80+% of the victims from Albania, Turkey, the Balkans, okay, Eastern Europe, Slovenia, Slovakia, Czech Republic, but mostly Kosovo, Bosnia, Albania, and Turkey. Yet, you won't hear anyone here talk about it. To this date, they are not talking about it because talking about Epstein's network's operations, this is an Israeli operations, in the Balkans, right? In Turkey, in Eastern Europe, that would expose the real Epstein's case. The stories, the Hollywood stories that they make up and they concoct and supposedly they expose, these are nothing. These have nothing to do with Epstein's case. Anyhow, I didn't want to make this a lingering video. I'm not sure if there is still interest, but the fact that of all these countries with such level of victims, Epstein's victims, so far only Albania and Serbia, these two countries have actually put it and brought it before the public. And kudos to your journalists for that. Continuing with the story, what my research led me to was in 2014, Epstein had his Epstein Island here in the Caribbean, right? Epstein and one of his main partner, this UAE guy, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, in 2004, they decided to franchise Epstein Islands, okay? To have several islands. Some of them specialized in little boys, some of them specialized in younger girls, okay? So to test it together, these two, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem and Jeffrey Epstein, they bought a second island in the Caribbean, and Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem directly invested it, whatever millions it was, and I exposed the story, so that they would develop something similar to Epstein Island, a little boutique small resort, right? And start testing this franchising because the clientele and the target clientele that they hook with pedophilia and the satanic operations, they're from all over the world, okay? And it makes it more convenient. Just the McDonald's, right? It's McEpstein Island. In fact, the title of one of my articles, investigative report, was McEpstein Islands, franchising it. So in 2014, they got this island, and Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, together with Jeffrey Epstein, okay, they started talking about Albania's Sazan Island, okay? And you might ask, how did they actually think of what got their attention when it came to Sazan Island, okay? For Jeffrey Epstein, it was almost like a fetish, having underground tunnels, right? Cave-like, maze-like protective tunnels. Some of these are for some of his ritualistic, satanic ritualistic thing. The other one was just a plain, the fetish. And of course, as you all know, Sazan Island has, since the World War II, these massive underground bunkers, right? Bunkers and tunnels that are almost not penetrable by any kind of a spying mechanism, any kind of drones. So that was one of the reasons that Jeffrey Epstein and Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem started looking at Sazan Island. The other reason for this had to do with Albania, okay? Albania's political climate being conducive for bribery and getting this. Another major reason for this had to do with the cocaine route and cocaine network. And this is the cocaine that Albanian mafia bring in from South America, okay? These are the South American countries, and some of them come to Europe via Brazil ports, okay? And I covered these in my investigative reports. I don't want to delve into it. So cocaine, sex, okay, tunnels, and also the possibility of creating an airport that they can have easily private planes, bigger planes land, all right? So with all these things, okay, and unfortunately the government's situation and susceptibility to bribery, making it conducive, they started seriously looking into Sazan Islands. In fact, if you go and look at the records, I know my amazing Albanian journalists have done that. They have already established that. Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem made several trips after concocting this plan with Jeffrey Epstein to Albania. And he had meetings with PM Modi, specifically discussing Sazan Island and also an airport to go with it, okay? And a resort and the use of bunkers. Year 2014, 2015, people, we are looking at 11 years ago. Of course, what happened was with 2016 coming and with the situation, legal situation for Jeffrey Epstein and him going to jail, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, the Israeli network, okay, that those would be Jeffrey Epstein's bosses, okay, they chose Epstein's heir for the Sazan Island project and other similar projects that employs pedophilia, Satanism, right? Child rape, child trafficking, but also mainly for Israel, they use it to hook people, whether they are the United Nations, whether majority of the people in the United States Congress, whether the United States court judges, whether it's the prime minister of whatever country, right? Because one of the things that Epstein and Epstein's network did, they always recorded their sessions, all these sexual sessions, all these satanic sessions, mainly not because they just wanted to watch it and jack off, right? They did it mainly because the main target of, or the main purpose also was the blackmail politics, global blackmail politics. The United Nation, you can refer to my investigative series, but also investigative series based on the interview with me done by RT Serbia. So that's how I got into those. And that, as I started covering that, in December 2025, you know, with the so-called fake, completely fake investigation of Epstein's case by the US Congress, led by this congressman, his name is Thomas Massie, with all those things getting kind of more heated up, right, hotter, I was contacted again. If you have checked my bio, I was known as an FBI whistleblower, and I have the largest organization, the only organization that is solely made of whistleblowers from FBI, CIA, Pentagon. I have hundreds of both publics but also private individuals within these agencies who want to do the right thing, who want to inform the public. So two current FBI agents from the FBI Washington field office, they contacted me via an intermediary saying that all these things that they are creating, in the Congress, that has nothing to do with the real Epstein files, because the real Epstein's files were not the ones collected under DOJ, the Justice Department's investigation of Epstein after he got caught the first time. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with FBI's counterintelligence unit. What does FBI's counterintelligence unit do? Okay, what do? They collect information under FISA. Okay, this is the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, from target foreign people and their activities. Now, some of them are companies, some of them are lobbyists, some of them are dignitaries. They're like ambassadors or the attaches, etc. Okay, of from all over the world in the United States. And these files date back to my case, 1996, with these foreign targets that FBI had been gathering information. So their target was not Epstein, But because every day they were pulling in all this data, all this intelligence for counterintelligence via FISA, they had collected between 1996 and about 2016 tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of information pieces, documents, videos, audio tapes on Jeffrey Epstein, because Jeffrey Epstein was in contact with these individuals, foreign individuals in the United States that FBI has, they always monitor, okay? That's an ongoing thing. So these agents, they contacted me because they wanted to give this to Congress, right? Because Congress, US Congress is saying they are investigating, they are interviewing, they are gathering documents. Well, they're all going to the wrong files, okay? Knowingly, not because they are dumb, which some of them are dumb, not because they didn't know, but it's specifically because they don't want the real stuff to come out. Because if the real stuff were to come out, you have 25-30% of the United States Congress being exposed as pedophiles with blackmailable stuff. Not all girls, some of them are into little boys. Such was Dennis Hastert. So they contacted me via intermediary, and I told this person, I said, okay, have them go to the House Judiciary Committee and give it to them because they're investigating, right? And he said they went to the House Judiciary Committee, not personally, because I went to the House Judiciary Committee. I told them about the files and the fact that these two agents, they want to be protected because they don't want to lose their jobs, but they can give the Congress, US Congress, all these files and where these files are. And the Congress turned him down, said, no, we don't want to look into counterintelligence, FBI counterintelligence. And at this point, I go, what? I'm like, maybe you went to the wrong person, because I too was one of those people who fell for this guy, Thomas Massie, thinking Thomas Massie is a maverick. He's the only voice out there trying to get to the bottom of this Epstein case, right? Yeah, I was duped. I really believed it. So I said, well, you went to the wrong person. And he said, no, trust me, the committee they have to investigate this includes Congressman Thomas Massie's investigator, because there's an investigator for the Judiciary Committee. And no, I said, no, let me try it, because I couldn't believe it. That this guy who's been hyped up as the champion of Epstein is covering up these agents and the real Epstein information. I have my call records, I have my email records. So I kept calling Thomas Massie's offices, not only the one in DC, but also in his state. I was told that they didn't want to hear about it. And 99% of it was hung up. And I am the founder and director of the National Security Whistleblowers Coalition. That was when I continued my investigative series, this time exposing, saying all these things that the idiotic American people, the majority USA here, they are clapping for, they are talking about, everything is an illusion. There has never been a real investigation by anyone, because if they were to do it, they would be gone. The people who are now, they are looked at as the investigative authorities, or people who have authority to investigate this, right? So I just gave you a broad overview, because Sazan Island, I put these articles out there. Pamfleti, thank you very much for publishing every one of them. I just want to send you kisses, because as an investigative journalist and analyst, I appreciate real journalism and fearless journalism. You did that. You're still doing your work despite the circumstances in Albania. That makes you that much more valuable, and I love you for that, okay? I do. Look at all the other countries. Turkey being at the center of Epstein as well. There hasn't been a single article published by either the Turkish in Turkey, the mainstream media, which is okay, that's understandable, right? But Turkey too has all these famous independent YouTubers and independent so-called journalists. Nobody has even uttered a word, because they see my work. people in Albania, you guys found me. Your journalists saw this. You think they don't see all this information and articles, and they are all over social media here, publicized by you and some of the other countries. Of course they do, but can't touch this, right? Can't touch this. So that's why I'm saying it makes it that much more valuable for the journalists in Albania. And then, okay, let me put this part too. By the end of February, people, my Albanian friends, I got exhausted. I have been producing all these articles, all these podcasts, right? And I've been putting it there, exposing it. I've been getting more and more witnesses. I have witnesses from the United Nations. I have original whistleblowers, people from the Dying Corps since 1990s, okay? I got people coming to me with information that this same network is also involved in organ harvesting, kidnapping children, people, and harvesting their organs, selling each organs for prices like 150,000 from Albania. These are people, these are children in Albania with ties to the same network, the Israeli Epstein and some of the Americans USA network. So I'm getting this information, I was publishing, and at the end I said, kudos to Serbia for defeating Jared Kushner's project with the same satanic pedophile network, Israeli and the UAE and all those Arab networks. And Serbia, because Serbian government was like readily going to give them, right, these hotel rights and the resort rights and other rights. But people in Serbia, they protested every single day. They didn't give up. Every single day for months, not for days, not for weeks. They staunchly said, no, we do not want Jared Kushner, these pedophiles, these immoral, degenerate people, these foreign influences who stand against the interest of Serbia in our country. And guess what, people? You saw what happened in December 2025, right before the New Year's. You know how they give awards to various films and movies, etc. I made up my own award. I said, Sibel Edmonds, and I'm going to give the People's Award this year for the year of 2025 to the people in Serbia, people of Serbia who defeated the Satan, Jared Kushner, Epstein network, and kicked them out of Serbia. So I gave them an award. You can find it. That would be on December 31st, the last day of 2025. I gave the award. I had the honor of giving the award, and I told my listeners that my award for this year is going to Serbia. And I want to congratulate you, because then I gave up after February. I said, okay, I've done all I could. There are no other countries that are listening, or the peoples of countries, especially Turkey. In Turkey, people completely block everything, and they are still blocking. They are still blocking, right? Um, and then just a couple of days ago, I started seeing these articles and the news all over social media coming out saying people in Albania have finally said enough is enough. They have said we are tired of being considered a narco country, the mafia country, a mafia government, and with our precious island, which is environmentally is extremely important, okay? Sazan Island also has environmental value, right? That needs to be protected, preserved. We are tired of this, and we are not going to let Jared Kushner's Epstein's network, Israeli genocidal Israeli network, take over our country. And you can't have Sazan Islands. And you have been protesting since. But remember, in Serbia, the people power defeated the evil power by not giving up. They went on. They didn't get discouraged, right? They kept going. They kept protesting. They kept protesting, and they finally won. So I want to tell you, I love you. Okay. I want to tell you that I am with you. My heart is with you. And now I'm going to go back to covering, okay, the developments there, because right now I see there is, thank God, enough, information pouring in through the internet, through the grapevine, because US media, you know what US media is about, right? They are the culprit, right? This is the nation, they are the culprit. So I want to congratulate you. I want to say I am with you, I'm supporting you. I would support people, human beings in any country that rise up and say no to these Epstein's network, these satanic pedophiles, organ trafficking, organ harvesting, blackmail politics implementing, genocidal practicing Israel supporters. Then they say no. And they say, you know what? The government may have all the police and all the intelligence and all the threats of arresting us and torturing us, but we are going to demand as the people. And look, with millions of people, of course you're going to win. Not maybe in one day, maybe not in 3-4 days, not in 7 days. Keep it up. I'm with you. And I'm with you, and I'm at the same time, I am so envious. I wish I could be there. And I'm going to be out of this country. Just a little side note, I already said my goodbye to this country, the United States of America. I've been here for nearly 40 years. And I have said it not because I am tired of fighting its corrupt, pedophile, despicable government. All branches, the courts, the whores in Congress, right? Look at the orange, but not only because I started fighting them in 2002 with everything, with my family, with everything, with my career, with everything. That is not something I ever get tired of. What I got tired of is the people in this country, the majority of the people in the United States of America. There is nothing like what we saw in Serbia. There is nothing like what we are seeing in Albania. Okay, they had demonstrations a few days ago in Turkey. It's nothing like that. And the reasons for this goes miles deep, and it's very troublesome because it is ingrained. Majority, not all, there are some good people, they are the irate small minority, but majority of the people in this country, they are rotten from within. They do rape their own children, they do molest children. We have high rate of pedophilia in this country. They are degenerate, they are immoral. They have even turned Jesus Christ into a money-making vehicle. Take a look at the videos, American evangelicals and mega churches. Watch and see what these people are doing. These people are antichrist who are posing as Christ lovers, okay? And their audience are millions of Americans who are supporting their pedophile pastors and their billionaires that they are creating. They have just met Epstein, right? They have made mega churches. In the United States, there are more churches than McDonald's in the country. And not all, many of them corrupt, pedophilia, Satan-ridden institutions who are there to be satanic in the name of Jesus. I mean, you can't commit sin bigger than that. And unfortunately, this is not brand new. Over the decades, from what I see, majority of the Americans, they have lost. They have lost the ability to be decent. Forget about anything else. Really decent human beings, because decent human beings, okay, I'm talking about the USA, they won't sit and watch and eat popcorn while some of these things are being exposed about their government's pedophilia and satanic practitioners and Epstein's and billions of dollars a day on bully wars and bombing a school children in Iran, purposefully targeting it and killing 7, 8, 9 years old little girls. Americans, majority of the Americans, the USA majority, has become so desensitized, it doesn't evoke anything in them. There is nothing. You look at their eyes. I live here, right? It's dead. You don't see that spark of humanity, right? And that didn't happen overnight. It has happened over decades. So when I'm saying I wish I could be, and I am going to be, but meanwhile, from here where I am, unfortunately, in the great Satan's nation, okay, I'm telling you, kudos to you. Viva Albanian people, okay? Keep it up. Keep it up. The world is watching. I'm sure so many people in many, many countries in the world, they are saying, maybe it's time for us. Maybe it's time for us to do things like this, right? Because you are setting examples. And this can create a domino effect. This is how, as a people of the world, as human beings, as decent human beings, we have that chance of countering this evil, this dark, this satanic, pedophilic, rotten, despicable deep state power, basically operated by the United States, the most disgusting place on the planet that I have ever seen. I've been in 48 countries plus, and Israel. That's the only chance. We, the people, it's the only chance we've got. Much love to you, much respect to you. Contact me, okay? And thank your journalists, okay? And today's article, I'm gonna put it in the description of this YouTube because I want to personally thank you. You wrote an amazing article, and you also had the ethical consideration of referring to the fact, to my name, and to the investigative work I spent 9 months of my life on. I thank you, and I'm going to put your name there, and I want to make sure you're able to contact me, okay? My doors, my lines are open for people like you, okay? And looking forward to your success, cheering for you here. Much love to you, and hopefully we'll connect very soon.